Shalom once again. I started out this morning with another purpose on my mind. But then, people say these things, but those who are afflicted, those who are true, the true house of Israel and Yahudah, know this to be fact. This is not just a saying to the true real ones. The devil's a lie. And that's the truth. And he's such a liar that he'll provide the evidence against himself. And to be in truth, I was once a sinner, meaning that I did things that was not right, and I did a lot of things in ignorance as well. But now my intent is in good faith to do what is right and to be righteous and holy and set apart as he has called me to be. And it's no intent. My intent is not to defame, defraud, injure anyone. But I'm just going to use the evidence that the de facto has given to prove my own case, to show them that they've basically testified against themselves. Okay, I did a video once before on the fraud. And YouTube basically told me, or not told me, they basically said they were contacted because of certain information. So I covered certain information, but as you see, the all capital letters that they put as trying to represent or get me to claim to be their corporate fictitious person, and I am not that. So this marriage certificate that they presented, as you see, I've notified them before, it's null and void from the intent because of their fictitious and fraudulent actions to injure me, the real living spiritual man. And then today, some of their agents showed up. I covered up the address so they won't have a complaint. YouTube won't get complained against. You've seen through that fraudulent marriage certificate, but now they came back to try to get me. That's how the devil do. He tries to come back and deceive you with more deception, which is more injury, and they're showing evidence against themselves to show that they're at fault, and they're going to answer for these things. It's on record. You're my witnesses. Look at that. Now, this is not an attempt to defame the person or whatever it is on this paper, but I have to show it to prove my point in my case. So it's not against anyone. It's just that this is the truth. See, look, that is not the name, even though they tried to put in all capital first case, the rest small case. That's still a de facto straw person. That's not a real woman or man. That's not even the same name that's on the fictitious marriage certificate. See how the games they play? That's evidence against themselves. And then they use their de facto person and use the name that I was given at birth by my mother. That's just the name that I was given. That's not me. You're looking at me. That's just a name. I have right to that name because that's the name my mother, natural mother and father, gave me. That is not me. You're looking at me. This is a piece of paper. That's a name on a piece of paper. But that's the name that was given as a identification by my mother of being me. But that is not me. See, that's the reason I use the chosen name that Yah gave me, that I'm convinced and believe he gave me. Nigis Elage Yah Kadesh. In proper English spelling, because The state has no claim at all to that name, nor can they deceive that name, because I never gave them permission to use the given name. But because they changed that into a fictitious character that they play games with, I claim rights to the name of Anthony Madrus Pooler, the senior, in all proper capital letters. But I choose to use Negus, proper English spelling, I meant to say. But I choose to use Negus Elage Yakadesh in proper English spelling, because that's the name that Yah gave me, and you shall not defile his name. Can't play games with that name, because that's the name he gave me, and that I put on record of as my chosen name, and they do not have right to bother that name, nor incorporate it, nor do anything they do to it, because that's what de facto do. They de facto. But that's why I choose to go by the name Negus Elage Yakadesh. So, even though I've notified them before that that's fraud and that marriage was null and void for evil intent, fraudulent actions, a couple of their deputies showed up today. I addressed them as gentlemen, and I let them know right away I chose not to contract with them. But then they're going to throw it on the ground and say, you've been served. Well, no, I ain't been served nothing. I'm not a piece of paper. I'm not a corporation. But because I'm not afraid of the system and I'm standing in right, I took their document, basically, and just let them know I don't choose to contract with you and they're in violation. And then also the answer to the fact of fraud is Bouvier's Law Dictionary, Volume 2, Revised 6th edition, 1856, law. When applied to objects, it is civil, criminal, and penal. I refuse the contract. I am not your object. And these things do not represent man and woman. You cannot put a real man to answer for a fictitious character. Everything else is in here is fiction, which made this notice of court hearing in the de facto system null and void. And then they continue to injure me by doing fraudulent things and use a good name that was given to me by my mother and father in proper English spelling. They used a good name and defiled it by putting it around corruption and put it in a corporate fictitious status. That's evidence against themselves. I will not go to court for this, because they have no right. This is not right. And I do not give them authorization to harass, kidnap, arrest, any such thing. Also, they put on there temporary restraining orders. You can't. How can a fictitious paper, a fictitious company who's acting in fiction charge any man with anything? A spiritual man. You can't do that. They can't do that. But I'm going to show you their intent, which is in bad faith. Their intent is to use the fictitious persons, and then, once again, that person who said that I was married to, the real man, which is again fiction, that's not even the name that was on the marriage certificate. Once again, fiction, fraud. I'm holding all of them accountable too. The fictitious courts, fictitious United States company, the person who's making these charges, using the fraudulent names to try to entrap a real man that you're looking at, living, breathing, spiritual man, that I can discern this. That God's given me the ability to discern and see their actions and to expose them for what they are, devils. And that's why I say I'm not a Christian, because even this person on here says she's a Christian. Looking for something else. I'm trying to find. Then they're trying to charge me with criminal actions. Talking about name of person, protected person, restraining order, all fiction. I object to all of that because this is fraud. You should not use this against me, the living man, because I'm not in your jurisdiction, and I'm not claiming to be. Even though you defrauded a good name and placed it in this mess, I take this name out of your mess and keep it good, because this is a fraudulent contract, and I already told them I chose not to contract with them, but the legal de facto being what it is, tried to throw it on the ground and give it to a real man. But since I'm not afraid of their legal fraudulent actions, I'm just giving them notice that I did not contract with them from the beginning, and I let them know that. Also, as you see, one of the de facto deputies tore off some paperwork before he threw it down. As you can see here, I don't know what that said, but I don't care because it's all fraud anyway. And this is the key. This is what they're trying to do. But I refuse because this is fraud. I have the right to bear arms. See, that's what they're after right there. See, to take away the weapons, take away the firearms. You ain't taking nothing from me. Lies. Request for domestic violence restraining order. When have I done some domestic violence other than exposing your lies? I've shown clearly that this is fraud. So I will not. I'm gonna answer to them, but in my proper capacity, to let them know I chose not to contract with them. And that's why I'm telling you that I've, as evidence, on the record. All right, that'll be part one. I'll move on to part two.